You know, David, you're a pretty good Superman, but if you want a shot at being the best, then just say it with me. Truth, justice, and the American way. Come on, you can do it. You too, James. Truth, justice, and the American way. So Superman is the first installment in James Gunn's DCU. That is, if you don't count Creature Commandos. And of course, with Peacemaker Season 2 coming out, that means Peacemaker Season 1 is also DCU canon. Except it can't fully be since the DCEU Justice League appears in it. And also, if Peacemaker is carrying over, that means the Suicide Squad is also mostly canon. But then that would make Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn DCU canon. And Suicide Squad ties somewhat into all that. And then of course, in Suicide Squad, Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne cameos in that. Wow, this is confusing. Could you clarify all this, please, James? Anyway, so at this point in the universe, superheroes, also known as metahumans, have been around for quite some time. And we find out that 30 years ago, the Kryptonian Kal-El came to Earth and ultimately became Superman, a somewhat inexperienced but well-meaning protector of humanity. But with the rise of this particular hero came the rise of an equally dangerous villain, Lex Luthor, who is hell-bent on taking the godlike alien down. Hey everyone, I'm the guy with no name, and thanks for stopping by my channel. If you enjoyed the video, please show your support by liking and subscribing. I'm trying to get to 350 subscribers. That's the next stair step until I can get to my first major goal, which is 500. But anyway, let's get back to the review. Superman was written and directed by James Gunn and stars David Corenswet as Kal-El, aka Clark Kent, aka Superman, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, a member of the Green Lantern Corps, Eddie Gathegi as Michael Holt, aka Mr. Terrific, and Isabella Merced as Kendra Saunders, aka Hawkgirl. So I'll say this movie is a good start. All joking aside, Superman is going to be a lot of people's first introduction into the DCU, and I think it 100% made sense to start with the granddaddy of them all. It is interesting that not only did they decide to skip Superman's origin story, but also to make him late to the party, as it were, when it comes to superpowered beings in the universe, which stands in stark contrast to Man of Steel. Speaking of Man of Steel and its darker tone, Superman is entirely unapologetic in its lighter tone, and it doesn't shy away from its comic book origins. In fact, it's one of the most comic booky movies I've seen in a long time. Heck, not giving anything away, but Lex Luthor's overall, plan is such a mwahahaha comic booky plot, but it somehow works. I think it's just because it takes itself seriously enough that I didn't balk at it like I normally would have. James Gunn, once again, does a great job directing, and I thought David Corenswet at the end of the day was a superb Superman. See what I did there? Sorry about that. But no, I thought he did a great job of taking the character of Superman and kind of making it his own while still keeping a lot of the familiar elements of the character we all know and love. He's heroic, he's optimistic, he's a little bit naive. I did think he was a bit too emotional at times though. Maybe that's because he's a younger and more inexperienced Superman that we're used to, but still I could have used with some of the emotional stuff dialed down just a little bit. Corenswet actually does have a decent amount of humorous lines to deliver, in fact, more than I thought he would have, and in the hands of a lesser actor, it probably would have come across as lame and cheesy a lot of the time, but honestly, he has great comedic chops, and he really has mastered the art of subtlety. Rachel Brosnahan and Nicholas Hoult, I thought, were perfectly cast. Rachel Brosnahan does a great job playing a romantic foil to Superman, and Lex Luthor is an imposing villain. In fact, he's one of those vengeful people that you would never want to get on their bad side. I know some people were afraid that this movie was going to feel overstuffed, but I enjoyed the inclusion of the Justice Gang, as Guy Gardner calls them. It's still very much a Superman-centric story, but I thought they were really fun supporting characters. And how could I review this movie without talking about Krypto? I gotta admit, when I first heard Krypto was gonna be in Superman, I was, let's say, very skeptical, but after seeing Krypto in the first trailer, all my fears were alleviated. I actually have a dog. Her name is Naga. She's named after the polar bear dog from Legend of Korra, if you know that show. But anyway, She's very sweet, very fun, but also can be crazy at times. And every time Krypto was on screen, I just thought of her and how that's exactly how she would be if she had superpowers. So maybe I'm a little biased, but I ended up loving Krypto. It's not a perfect film though. It actually took me a while to get into the movie when it first started, and then also there were times where there was too much humor, even though I appreciated how at the end of the day, James Gunn dialed down his normal level of humor. Also, I'll keep it vague, but there was a certain revelation about Superman's past that didn't really work for me, and I didn't really like it. What did work for me though was the overall theme, which is we're defined by our choices and not by what people say about us or by what people think our motivations are. And then more of a side note, but there are 2 post-credit scenes, and just beware that they are fun throwaway scenes. They're not important in any way at all. They don't set up anything. At the end of the day though, Superman was an enjoyable film, and it's definitely got me excited and looking forward to the future of the DCU. I give it a solid good rating. So how many of you guys are planning on seeing Superman? Also, are you nervous about the DCU given the failure of the DCEU or James Gunn's involvement? Or really just let me know any thoughts you might have about the movie, and I really try to get to each and every comment. I love talking with you guys, and if you enjoyed this video, like I said, like and subscribe, and check out my review of Jurassic World Rebirth. This is the guy with no name, signing off.